Copper League, and this is to test the new mic that I just got, okay? So, for those who don't know, about over 10 years ago, I had a Copper League channel for League of Legends, right? And I actually got hated off of the internet at one point for trying to teach people more about League of Legends before coaching was actually a thing. And the reason I got flamed was because I was in a time period when you got kills, things snowballed out of hand, and you won games really easily. And I had taken a break from the game for like a year or something, came back and was like making a video. And I emphasized that I didn't really care about killing my lane opponent while I was playing Zed versus Fizz. And basically, I all end them under turret. They barely lived with like barely any life. And then I was like, okay, it doesn't really matter because they lost all these minions. And basically, everyone on the internet flamed me so hard that I was just like, screw it, and I stopped doing things. So now we're coming back, and I'm just going to be doing this like off and on just for fun. But summary of Elo, okay? Because I just kind of was like looking at this the other day, and everyone's always asking like, how do you get better? How do you get better? What do you do? They want to pay for coaching, all that stuff. Whereas like I naturally found a lot of this stuff out over time, and then eventually I just added people on League of Legends until you end up finding a Discord that has like a bunch of master or grandmaster players, and they kind of teach you stuff. But then I got to thinking about this the other day, and I was like, every elo that you go into, every single elo that we've ever went into, there's people that complain and they flame, right? They get mad, they flame you or whatever, and everything they say kind of like adds up over time. So like, yeah, Bronze and all them might say that you suck or whatever, but there's like little nuances to these because like, so Iron, I never really played in Iron that much, so I just assume you're either really new to League of Legends, you have some sort of disability, you're a young kid, or you just have a life and you don't really play video games that much, okay? Bronze, they say like, my team sucks so bad I can't get out of Bronze, which means that they suck and they can't carry their team well enough to get out of Bronze themselves. Okay? Silver, you're trash, and they call a specific enemy or ally out. It's not just like your team anymore. It's a specific person or a couple of people, which means it's more on you to be able to cover for that one specific person or not. And then gold, you go into like people flame you for being like stupid and not knowing what objective to take or what turrets to push or what team fights to group for, which again, in lower elo, there is an idea of what is the proper objective to take and what is the proper team fight to fight, but you also have teammates that are 50-50 toss-ups whether you lose or win a fight because they might not be good at team fights, they might not be good at all this other stuff. So even in this elo bracket, you can make decisions that aren't necessarily the right decision to win games because you can't necessarily trust your team to win the right decisions. It becomes a 50-50 flip where it's more on you to win. So it's your decision whether you go back and forth on this. And then Plat, people start getting into like your build sucks or you have no idea how to move and help your team or you don't know how to like, you know, show up and help secure XYZ thing. But usually it's something around like your build or how you're playing your champion. Like people just know how to play your champion better because they watch like YouTube guides, right? Which more or less you can kind of say like some people are right on this. Other things are there's a lot of other basics that you probably need to like hunker down on to improve with. So after like gold elo and stuff and you get into like plat and emerald, you start getting like maybe slightly better teammates ideally. Then you can start making more realistic game decisions to try and improve, like going for dragons and forcing some fights or securing vision around objectives in the jungle to like kill off enemy laners and get picks. You know, maybe you can trust your allies to like actually focus around you if you're fed and help you out or help you get a pick that you make a call on or realize that you're somewhat skilled with your champion. I wouldn't say it's necessarily your build. It would be more or less how you're playing the game at this point, less about your build itself. All right. So Plat is like that period where you really need to kind of smooth out the edges of how you play League of Legends. And then Emerald is where you really like start cementing things down. Like Plat, you figured it out, you got your groove. Emerald is like, this is what I'm doing. I have a game plan all the time. And then people will flame you for like not tempoing right or not having wards, or your positioning in team fights sucks to where like you're an ADC and you dashed into 5 people and you got murder solo killed before a team fight could even begin to happen, or your team composition is a certain way and you don't have the ability to fight in a certain method, but you keep doing it anyway. Like these are the things that people start flaming you over, and kind of like the Emerald thing. And then a Diamond, it goes into like how safe or how efficient your pathing is, how you're building subcomponents and stuff for your components during the beginning of the game, how you're timing your backs and stuff when you leave lane or whatever, and then like team fighting, coordination, wombo combos with abilities, min-maxing the amount of time someone's CC'd, all this kind of stuff starts popping up, and people flame you for like that kind of thing. And then like Masters Plus, those guys will just like start flaming each other or flaming you, because it's all about like everything's getting min-maxed. Your back times, how long you can stay in an area, how long you can be in lane without dying, what you're building, how gold efficient your item is, what item is the strongest to build early. Like they just go off about gold efficiencies and min-maxing everything in the game. And that's why things just keep getting crazier and crazier as you go up in League of Legends, because the game itself actually changes as you rank up in League of Legends. So Iron, Bronze, Silver, maybe even Gold in there are all kind of their own little elo. I would say Iron, Bronze, and Silver, those are all sort of these elos where you can just like steamroll people, but you also have to deal with like people that rage quit and stuff. So you need to be able to balance out like your team's morale plus your ability to like carry people. The Gold, Plat, Emerald area is like also its sort of thing, where Gold, you still have some Silver players in there, you have Plat players in there. It's kind of this mosh posh of things that you can still carry, but your team can also kind of carry you. It's this weird thing where like sometimes you don't have to carry all the time, but you can kind of work around other carries in the team. Plat and Emerald are really like, you need to kind of understand your own build, your own champion, everything else. You're smoothing out the edges. You need to understand how your team and stuff work and play together. And then you're like cementing those like things down to really improve. And then Diamond and Masters and stuff I kind of throw into a mosh posh together, because once you get from Emerald to Diamond, the game kind of changes again, because like Emerald's kind of like you can kind of float through it. It's not that big of a deal. And then you hit like D4 or whatever, and things just kind of like go crazy. And you have all of this like one trick people who like go up in there. You got people who've been solo carrying their whole team from like Gold, Silver, Plat, Emerald. They've been solo carrying this whole time, and they don't know how to work as a team anymore. And like there's slight adjustments that you have to make as you move up, because like certain champions will fall off, certain ways that you play won't work anymore, certain selfish decisions that you make on the map are more punishing, because you no longer have like 1 or 2 good players in your match. You might have 3 or 4 really good players in your match that you have to worry about, that know how to beat you. And so this is where like the game evolves again. And then the Masters and stuff is just so intensive. Like it's to a point where I don't even want to go up that high. Like Diamond is the highest that I will ever try to go for the most part. I don't care to really go any higher. I barely even care to go up to Diamond. Like I'll float up there and then I'll go back down, because I like trying weird stuff. But it's the change in the game as you move up that makes it hard, because people learn how to play in their specific elo bracket, and then they move up and they have to relearn the game to figure out how to move up through the next elo bracket, and then you have to relearn the game again to move through the elo bracket, and then you get put back at the very beginning at some point, and the way that you learned how to play in the high ends or the middle tiers don't work in the other tiers anymore. Because ever since I played League, even like 10 years ago, I've always like started off in gold. I never really had to deal with bronze and silver that much. And then one year when I started playing support for the first time, I got stuck in bronze, and it took me, I don't even know how long to get out of there. And then getting through silver, and it was the hardest grind of my life because I was a mid and top lane player. I'd always started off in gold, and I'd always been able to climb up at least decently well, like just with my champion mechanics and stuff before I even understood the game. And then when I went to support, it was like, how do you win if you can't actively help your team? Like, you can't carry your team if you're building all these support items and stuff, you don't have the damage. And then eventually I got to the point where I was starting to just play carry champions, or I was like roaming all around the map to make massive leads, and then just bullying my way through silver and bronze and gold. So I can even get up to plat and emerald now, just playing like a Mordekaiser support and steamrolling everybody on the enemy team. But eventually you hit a wall where like you can't just keep doing that anymore because you're going to get punished, and you got to start changing how you play again. And that's where things flip off, because you're not just mastering one game, you're mastering like 3 separate sections of elo. And it's crazy because originally I learned a lot of stuff, like how I got better from like gold and it was able to make it to diamond, is that I ended up adding people on League of Legends. We went to a Discord channel, and then they had custom matches that they fought against each other all the time that had master and grandmaster players in it. So every day when I got on League of Legends, instead of going and playing ranked anymore, I was doing custom matches with the same people over and over and over in voice chat. And then you had master players and stuff arguing with each other about their pathing routes and gold efficiencies and how they do stuff. And usually you had like one master or grandmaster on one team and one master or grandmaster on the other team. And they were trying to like coach the teams against each other to see who was better, like who knew the game better. It was like this big ego trip. And then for me, they wanted me around because when I played support, I was really good at like punishing people in lane, so I ended up bullying people out of lane a lot. But I didn't understand the overall picture of the game, and then I got stuck in like Emerald or whatever. I got up to like Emerald just from like pure bullying people in lane, roaming around maps and stuff. And then the Grand Masters had to like teach me, you know, putting like pathing through the jungle to place wards. There's like a path that's safer so that you don't, it's less likely for you to get like killed if you go this way instead of the other way. There's a place that you can put your wards where you can get like 10% more vision, you know, in case the jungler's like trying to skirt around the vision edges or something. Because you got to realize you're playing with higher tier players. They understand where wards most likely are, etc. They understand how to walk around the vision even if you place wards. So then all that stuff becomes way more important, and even like the timings that you're placing them and stuff. So like the min-maxing nature of it becomes so bad. And then I got into diamond and support for a little while. I didn't hold the rank forever, because I just get burnt out when I have to do like min-maxy stuff with no freedom. I like experimenting, trying new builds and things. But then when I went back down later, because I took like another year break or whatever, I came back to the game. My reflexes are terrible, and then I can't, like, every time I come back to the game, my reflexes suck. Takes me a while to get back into the groove. Players move differently. They play differently. And I went back into the lower elos, and I had a hard time climbing back out of gold again in support role. And then more recently, I started to realize it was because I was playing with higher elo players the last time I played. I started building more traditional support items, playing with my team more, and like focusing around team fights and stuff, instead of me playing like I used to play, where I would like build Trailblazer Thresh or something and then just annihilate my bot lane with my mechanics, and then roam mid lane like every 2 seconds and just abuse their mid lane and stuff and get like half of my team fed, and then pinging and controlling my team moving around the game. So I feel like there is kind of like a learning curve to League, but there's also this like this switch that you have to like turn on and off when you go to different elo brackets, because like I could potentially, like, probably not now. Like in the past, I could potentially win with mechanics and stuff against like high elo players in a lane. Now I'm slower, I'm older. I can't really do that as much. I need to like figure out ways to go and like win lanes without trying to like stat check somebody, like skill check them. Um, and so it's kind of this weird thing. Like even as you age, you got to like kind of adapt as you go through, or like play more basic champions, or go back to fundamentals when it comes to like League. Because there was something that I remembered uh, just not too long ago. I saw a video on it, and then I remembered it was something that I used to do, but then I forgot about it. So uh, these days, when I was playing bot lane, and let's say like my ADC died, or uh, they were like weren't coming back to lane like super quick, and I knew the enemy ADC was going to get back to lane fairly quick, I was hard pushing the wave from like our side to their side so it wouldn't slow push back. But then there's a video more recently where they were talking about how in that situation you can slow push it back into the enemy ADC because the first part of the wave that you're slow pushing with kills their wave faster. Like they lose like half a wave or a wave of XP before they get back. Whereas if you fast push it and they happen to be in lane again before you get it to their turret, they get all of that minion farm and XP anyway. So it's like the bot lane macro for like minions is even kind of more uh, around like the little bitty XP leads that you get from these tiny things. Whereas like mid lane, the lane is so small that if you like you can slow push like that, but they don't really lose a ton because like usually it can make it across the lane before it even like gets there, where they'll show up and farm it because it doesn't take them as long to get there. There's like weird things, you know, and then like the small details, the min-maxy details of the higher elos can give you an advantage in the lower elos. But I don't like for now that I'm older and I know these things, I can use these small little bitty tips to help me like win lanes and stuff that in the past I probably wouldn't have won because I just didn't understand those concepts. But overall, I'm probably a worse player. I haven't played mid lane or top lane really consistently in over 10 years. And when I'm playing the support role, I get filled in those lanes every now and then. And so far, like every time I've played in those lanes, besides the last one when I went against Mel because I wasn't exactly sure how my Azir worked against Mel with her reflection stuff, and her AoEs are so big that she could just hit the whole wave and hit you, and it doesn't reduce the damage. And she had like a skill that had a big AoE that was very difficult to dodge or move around. And then even if you traded with her, her passive gives her like bonus damage, so you wouldn't been able to like straight up fight her anyway. But mostly I was able to beat her mechanically in fights, but I wasn't using my Q and my ult to damage her, and I didn't set my ruins up for poke. I set it up for like DPS, like auto attacking, and her cooldowns were so low that I couldn't DPS auto attack her because she just did so much damage to me with those cooldowns. And so like I mechanically beat her 2 or 3 times in lane, but she never reflected my Q or my R. So I wasn't positive if I could get away with it or not, which made me suffer in that lane. But every other time I've played, I've been stuck in there. I've popped Azir or like Yasuo or something, or Zed, and like old classics that I played all the time. And I've stomped lanes like 18-2 and 12 or whatever. I've gotten like simple lane mechanics at the very beginning of the game, and then I just roam bot lane and get 4 kills, sweep them up because like my mid lane roamed down there. They got into a bad fight. They're all low HP. I got like a 3-stack minion wave mid pushing on the turret, and then I just go down there and sweep up 4 kills and like steamroll the game. You know, it's like simple things like cannon minions doing more damage to the mid lane turret, being able to like auto attack melee minions when they go around, like you have a wave pushed up to their turret, you can auto attack the melee minions to pull them into the center of the lane and then keep pressure on the middle turret. These little bitty things that you don't really see other people do in lower elos, you can get away with as you like get more knowledge, but you can't really explain that, I guess, or have that work. Like, it does work, but you can't really just have like a new player just automatically learn that. Usually they get really good with their mechanics of their champion. Like when I first started playing, my mechanics on Yasuo and Azir and stuff back in the day were crazy good, and they were very complicated champions. And now it's like I can't even dash through minions that go through the jungle, but yet somehow I can out trade people with my Yasuo in lane and like win these small little bitty battles or avoid getting ganked and stuff. So like there's different skill levels where probably in the past I would have been with my mechanics really easily able to go through like iron and bronze and silver and gold, but now it's like I might struggle a little bit more in the lower elos, but once I get to the higher stuff, I do pretty good. And then other champions will have like way better combos and mechanics in the higher elos. So then you kind of get beat down because you don't have the mechanical skill to keep up with them anymore. So you have to like relearn your mechanics and stuff instead of relearning like knowledge for like minion manipulations and rotations and fighting with your junglers and timing and warding and all that stuff. So you always got to keep refreshing and everything, especially when you take a break. But we're going to be hopping in the game here in a minute. I just want to make a short video, test this microphone a little bit. So we'll see what it's like. Y'all guys have a good one, all right?